Okay, let's get started. Welcome to the press conference at the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. Today we have our speaker, Katsunori Fujii. He heads a group called Japan Council on Disability, which represents all people with disabilities. And he had worked all his life for the betterment of disabled people. He himself is actually blind. And in the wake of the mass stabbing incident in Sagamihara last month, in which 19 people were killed and 25 were injured, I had the opportunity to interview Mr. Fujii, and it was really an eye-opener for me. He taught me his views about the incident and the feeling that the people with disabilities are getting from that incident. So I thought more people should hear what he has to say. So I asked him to speak at the club today. And he's going to speak about 10 minutes in Japanese first. So with the interpretation, it'll be about 20-25 minutes. And then we're going to open up the floor for the Q&A. And you should have the statement that his organization issued, both in English and Japanese, if you will, and also his speech. But let me just assure you that he's not going to read the speech, as you know. So his actual speech may differ slightly from the text in front of you. So please keep that in mind. So please, okay, I always forget. And interpreter today is Ms. Ushiro. So please welcome Mr. Katsunori Fujii.
Thank you very much. My name is Katsunori Fujii. I cannot speak English. ほいじゃあ通訳の方よろしくお願いします。今日のテーマは相模原市で起こった障害者施設の殺傷事件に思う。そして副題は私たち、ナイフの刃先は私たちにも、そして日本社会が放つ警鐘で話をさせていただきます。
Today, I would like to give my speech on my thought on the mass killing at Sagamihara Care Center. And the sub-theme is the edge of the knife is also pointing to us disabled. And this is the warning against the modern Japanese society.
私は今説明ありましたように全く全盲状態でありますので、お手元に配った講演の原稿ですね、これと全部が一致でないことをあらかじめお断りしておきます。
As just explained, I am totally blind, and therefore I would like to remind you that the speech is not going to be exactly the same as the one in the text.
それではお話に入ります。
Now let me begin my speech.
日本に在住する誰もがあの日の朝のニュースに自分の耳と目を疑ったと思います。
Everybody living in Japan must have doubted their ears and eyes at the morning news.
私たちは改めて19人の同胞の死を悼み、そして27人の負傷者の一日も早い回復を祈っています。
We would like to extend our deepest condolences to the 19 people who died, as well as the 27 injured, so that they could recover at the earliest possible date.
心の傷は山あり園の関係者はもちろんですけれども、知的障害者や精神障害者を中心に日本中のすべての障害者に及んでいると思います。
I believe that the psychological damage is extended not only to the stakeholders of Yamayuri-en institution, but also to everyone in this entire country, centering around the individuals with the intellectual disorders as well as mental disorders.
事件から2週間余が経ちました。私の手元にはたくさんの意見や感想が寄せられています。
It's been more than 2 weeks since that incident occurred, and I have received many opinions and comments.
障害当事者の声をまとめますと、次の3つの衝撃に集約できます。
If I summarize the voices of the disabled, I think I could categorize them into 3 types of shocks.
第1はたくさんの死亡者を伴う現地からの生々しい報道への衝撃です。
The first kind of a shock is due to the gruesome report from the scene of the mass killing.
元職員とはいえ、自分たちを守ってくれるはずの職員が容疑者であったことが衝撃を増幅させています。
The shock is even more enhanced because of the fact that the suspect was a former caregiver at the facility, the caregiver who is supposed to protect their lives.
第2の衝撃は、容疑者が衆議院の議長宛てに出した手紙に、障害者は生きてても仕方がない、安楽死をさせた方がいい、これへの衝撃です。
The second kind of a shock is the fact that he addressed a letter to the Speaker of the House of Representatives saying it is meaningless for people with disabilities to live, and it would be better if they are put to mercy killing.
まるでナイフの刃先が自分たちにも向けられているように感じ、自分らしいという人間の価値そのものにナイフが突き刺さった、そんなことを感じている人が少なくありませんでした。
Not a few people have felt that the edge of the knife is also pointing at them, the disabled. In other words, they felt like the edge of the knife is pointing to the value of themselves as a human being.
第3の衝撃は、これは精神障害者に走っている衝撃です。
The third kind of a shock is the one that is running amongst the people with mental disorders.
容疑者は精神科病院の入院歴があると報じられ、精神障害者の多くがまた精神障害者への偏見や差別が増していくんじゃないかという怖さを持っています。
Actually, the suspect had a history of admission to mental hospital, according to the news report, and therefore the people with the disabilities fearful. They are concerned that the prejudice and discrimination against the individuals with the mental illnesses may be enhanced.
また措置入院制度の見直しが取り沙汰されていますけれども、これもまた隔離政策が一層進んでいくんじゃないか、こういう不安が広がっています。
Furthermore, the review of the involuntary admission was mentioned. However, there is a fear that the isolation policy may be intensified.
まだ事件の全容が分かってはいませんけれども、これまでの報道をもとにして現段階での私のこの事件への見解を述べたいと思います。
The entire picture of the incident remains unclear at this moment, but I would like to share with you my views at this time.
見解に先立って強調しておきたいのは、この事件があまりに残忍で卑劣であるということです。
Prior to expressing my own views, what I would like to emphasize again is how brutal and despicable this incident was.
防衛することができない多数の重度障害者を標的とし、そして防備体制の薄い、支援体制の薄い深夜に襲いかかりました。
The suspect attacked the victims who have no way of resisting this murder, and also a large number of the people with the disabled were targeted. When there is a very scarce security or defense system, as well as the support system in the middle of the night.
私たちは容疑者の行為を絶対に許すことはできません。
We can never ever forgive the act of the suspect.
このことを踏まえて以下3つの観点から見解を述べます。
Now, having stated this, I would like to express my views from the three standpoints.
見解の第一は、これが最も大事なことなんですけれども、容疑者の言動から今回の事件は優生学思想と関係しているのではないかということです。
The first point is, which is actually the most important point, that from the behavior and words of the suspect, it seems that this incident is related to the eugenic thinking.
優生学思想そのものは19世紀半ば以降、欧米の学者によって提唱されましたけれども、私は今回の事件でまず連想したのはナチスドイツ時代に展開された T4 作戦でした。19世紀ね、1800年代半ば以降。
はい。Now, the eugenics itself was proposed by the Western scholars since the 19th century. However, this incident reminded me of the Action T4 program that was conducted under the Nazis regime in Germany.
第二次世界大戦の開戦日から1941年の8月まで繰り広げられたヒトラーの命令による T4 作戦は、価値なき生命の抹殺の容認作戦とも言われ、ドイツ国内で20万人以上の障害者が虐殺されました。
From the outbreak of World War II in 1939 to August 1941, under the order of Hitler, Action T4 program was carried out in order to eliminate the worthless lives. And more than 200,000 people, the more than 200,000 disabled within Germany were massacred.
犠牲者の多くは知的障害者と精神障害者でした。
Many of the victims were those with the intellectual disorders as well as mental illnesses.
ここでの価値とは働く能力でした。
The worth here means the ability to work.
T4 作戦以前には遺伝病子孫予防法に基づいて約40万人もの障害者と病気のもとが断種を強行されました。
Prior to the Action T4 program, based on the offspring with the hereditary illness prevention law, approximately 400,000 disabled as well as the ill were killed.
T4 作戦の後にはそこで培われた殺害方法や装置があのユダヤ人大虐殺に引き継がれました。
And after the T4 program, the way to kill the individuals as well as the equipments to murder them were inherited for the Jewish massacre.
ドイツでは2010年の11月 この段階でドイツ精神医学精神療法神経学会ですね DGPPN この総括を契機にしてドイツでこの T 法問題に向き合いつつあります。
In Germany, in November 2010, there was the Congress called the German Psychiatry, Psychotherapy, and Neurology, so-called DGPPN. They drew a conclusion about the action program, and they started to seriously face this issue.
私は昨年来ドイツに三度3回足を運び、人権や障害という視点からこの T 法問題に光を当て続けてきています。
Since last year, I visited Germany 3 times, and I have been shedding light on this issue from the standpoint of human rights and disabilities.
光を当てている矢先に今回の事件が起きました。
And in the midst of my efforts focusing on Action T4 program, this incident occurred.
問題は容疑者がなぜこうした考え方に至ったのかであります。
The question is, why did the suspect come to form this way of thinking?
繰り返してはいけない T 法作戦でしたが、こうした形で日本で表面化したことは実に驚きであり戦慄であります。
And this Action T4 program should never be repeated, and yet a similar incident surfaced in our country. This gives me undescribable shock and terror.
まだまだ闇の部分の多い今度の事件ですが、ぜひ真相究明を全面的に進める必要があろうかと思います。
There are still so many dark sides related to this incident, but we really need to devote all our energies to revealing the truth of this incident.
見解の2つ目は市民の常識、いわゆる普通の感覚でこの事件を捉えてみたいと思います。
My second view is that I would like to look at this incident from the viewpoint of a common feeling or common sense of the citizens.
普通の感覚から事件の舞台となった施設の実態、そして事件後の対処方法を見るといくつも違和感があります。
When I view this incident from common sense or ordinary feelings, then I feel uncomfortable when I look at the scene of the incident, the facility itself, and the way it's run, as well as how this incident was handled after that.
一つは舞台となった場が入所施設という特殊な場であったことです。
First of all, the crime of the incident was the facility itself.
集団でかつ長期にわたる生活形態は障害のない青年層あるいは壮年層にはありえないと思います。
To live in a group home for a long time, and this kind of lifestyle is not seen among the youth without any disabilities, or among the middle-aged people without any disabilities.
大量の今回の殺人が大規模な生活形態と関係があったかどうか、これも検証の対象です。
Verification is required as to whether or not this mass killing has to do with this way of living at a large facility.
問われるのはここを利用している家族ではありません。施設から地域へこのことを加速できないでいる障害者政策あるいは行政にあろうかと思います。
What we need to investigate, well, we need to focus our attention to is not the family members who are using this facility, but the policy for the disabled, as well as the governmental policies, which cannot promote the shift from facility to the community.
ちなみに厚労省の発表によりますと、最新データで日本には知的障害者が74万1000人、このうち施設に入っているものが11万9000人となっています。
Just for your information, according to the data of the MHLW, the total number of the individuals with the intellectual disorder is said to be 741,000, out of whom 119,000 people are living in the facilities.
見解の3つ目は昨今の日本社会の特徴、そして昨今の障害者施策との関係についてです。
Now, my second view has to do with the recent.
すみません、見解の2つ目のうちですね、まだごめんなさい、続けてます。違和感があった、普通の感覚と見て違和感がある2つ目はですね、死亡者、死んだ方の氏名が伏せられていることです。
The second point when I felt uncomfortable was the fact that the names of the victims are concealed.
この国では事故やあるいは事件で死亡した場合には氏名を公表するのは常であります。
In Japan, when there is a fatality in an accident or incident, it is common to disclose their names.
個人の氏名や個人の情報、これによって手の合わせ方が変わると思います。
Depending on the names of the victims or their individual information, the way we offer prayers may be different.
今のままではグループの死、顔のない死、これでは一人一人を悼むことはできにくいと思います。
Under the current situation, they are considered as the death of a group or faceless death, and therefore it is difficult for us to offer our condolences for each individual death.
3つ目の違和感は、難を逃れた障害を持った人たちのその後の暮らし方であります。
The third point when I felt uncomfortable about this incident was the way the survivors of the facility living at this moment.
報道によりますと、約90人が山入り園の体育館で生活をしていると言われています。
It has been reported, even now, approximately 90 people are still living in the gym of Yamayuri-en facility.
一般的に考えて、凄惨かつ自分たちの仲間が死んだ現場で同じ敷地内に2週間以上も生活というのはあり得るでしょうか。
Is it really possible, generally speaking, that the survivors have to live in the same crime scene where many of their fellow members were killed and a gruesome incident occurred in the same premise over 2 weeks?
見解の3つ目は、今の日本社会の特徴、そして今の障害者政策との関係についてです。
Now, my third viewpoint is about the characteristics of the recent Japanese society as well as the policies for the disabled.
無論、事件とこれらを単純に結びつけることはできません。
Of course, I cannot hasten to connect these matters to the incident immediately.
しかし、日本の社会で起こったことは間違いのない事件であり、 舞台となった日本社会の現状を触れないわけにはいきません。
However, it is a fact that this incident occurred in Japan, and therefore I cannot help but touching upon the reality of the Japanese society where this incident occurred.
現代の社会を端的に言うと、市場万能主義、あるいは競争原理が幅を利かせると言っていいと思います。
To simply put, the modern society values the capitalism, and also the principle of competition is dominating this world.
こうした風潮が今回の事件に関係がいささかでもあるんではなかろうかという懸念を持たざるを得ません。
So I have a concern that this social climate might have some impact on this incident.
市場原理をベースとする政策は規制緩和、あるいは自己責任論という形で障害分野にも影を落としています。
The policy based on the capitalism is casting a shadow over the disabled or over the disability areas in the form of dysregulation and self-responsibility.
こうした流れと関係しながら福祉労働者、この支援者ですねの労働条件は極めて劣悪に抑えられています。
Now, in connection of these matters, the working conditions of the supporters are suppressed low.
こうした中で障害者を支える現場で何が起こっているかですが、一つには専門性の劣化が進んでいます。
Under these circumstances, what is happening in the care facilities for the disabled, and actually the deterioration of the expertise of the supporters. That's what is happening.
また公募しても職員が集まらないという慢性的な職員不足や、あるいは正規職員がいないことから来る余裕のなさによって職場の人間関係が希薄になっています。
And there is a chronic lack of human power and staff members, despite the recruitment efforts. And also, there aren't many full-time employees at these facilities, and that lead to the weak human relationship at work.
もう少し時間いただきまして、それではこれから今回の事件を契機にして私たちは何をなすべきか、これについて簡単にコメントします。
I hope you bear with me for a while, for another while. Now I would like to talk about what we should do after this incident.
直ちに行うことと、そして本質的な課題とを区分けして対処すべきです。
We need to separate the two matters. The one is there are things that we need to take action immediately, and the other is there are substantial challenges that we have to tackle with, and these two have to be separately dealt with.
直ちに行うことの基本は容疑者の直接的な動機を中心に真相を解明することでしょう。
What we need to take an immediate action is we need to focus on the suspect's direct motive, and we need to make an effort to investigate and reveal the truth of the incident.
またこれに加えて事件の発生あるいは拡大、これについて施設のあるいは法人の不備がなかったか、また政策上行政上の盲点がなかったか、その他想定されるあらゆる角度から冷静で厳正な検証を行うわけです。
In addition, we need to verify calmly and vigorously from every possible angle that is conceivable as to whether or not if there is any deficiency on the part of the facilities and the corporation that might be linked with the occurrence of the incident or the expansion of the incident, as well as the weaknesses and blind spots of the local government or the policies that they are implementing.
並行して本質的な課題に迫るべきです。
In parallel, we need to try to look at the substantial, essential issues.
その点で気がかりなのは事件後の日本政府の対応です。
And there's a concern the way the Japanese government responded to this incident.
例えば政府は措置員制度を見直す旨を報道してますけれども、拙速な対応はむしろ新しい混乱を招くんではないかと思います。
For instance, the Japanese government is reporting to have said that they are going to review the way the involuntary admission should be. However, hasty measures may result in a new confusion.
いわゆる社会防衛的な政策だけでは決してあってはいけない、こう思います。
Just by taking the social defensive policies or measures per se, it's not sufficient.
この半世紀を振り返ってみても、日本の精神障害者の政策は絶えず大きな事件とセットで動いてきました。
When we look back at the past 50 years, the Japanese government's the policies for the people with the disabilities has been always connected with the incidents and accidents.
事件とあるべき方向を区分けをして論じる、そういう政策手法を取ってほしいと思います。
I hope that the government will take the measures in a way that the incident will be separated from the way things should be.
同じく厚労省は障害者施設の防犯策の強化を強調しています。
The MHLW is also emphasizing the security measures for the facility for the disabilities.
これも釈然としません。大事なことはもちろん防犯策は大事ではありますけれども、もっと本質的な改善策と合わせて提言するときにその趣旨が生きてくると思います。
I am not fully convinced of this kind of measure. Of course, the security measures are important. However, when they are emphasized together with the measures to improve the situation in substance, the intent of such security measures will bear fruit.
防犯策のみの強化は地域との隔絶の新たなきっかけになりかねません。
Because the enforcement of the security measures alone may lead to the further isolation of the disabled from the community.
本質的なこれからの政策のポイントを2点簡単に述べます。
I would like to talk about the 2 points that might change the future direction in substance.
障害者政策に関しては社会防衛的な視点、あるいは集中管理的な視点、これと決別をして言い換えれば地域で暮らすための質と量の政策を飛躍的に拡充することです。
First point is we need to break away from the centralized and centralized policies from the viewpoint of the social defense. In other words, we have to dramatically improve qualitatively and quantitatively the conditions so that the disabled can live in the community.
施設から地域へ、医療中心から生活中心へ、もはやスローガンであってはなりません。政治の表舞台で論じ、ゴールを明確に設定すべきです。
From facility to community, and from the medicine oriented to life oriented, and these should not be just slogans, and we need to discuss them at the central stage of the politics, and we have to clarify the goal.
もう一つの本質は社会の在り方であり、強者の論理、これとの決別です。
The second point is about the way the society should be, and we have to correct the society where the strong is dominant.
かつて国連は一部の構成員を締め出す社会は弱く脆いと明言し、また障害者権利条約の第17条ではその心身がそのままの状態で尊重される権利を有すると明記されています。
Now, once the UN declared that a society which excludes people with disabilities is weak and fragile, and there is a provision saying every person with disabilities has a right to respect for his or her physical and mental integrity on an equal basis with others.
こうした視点に沿って社会の標準値を修正すべきかと思います。
I believe that the norm of the society should be rectified along with these provisions.
19人の命は戻ってはきません。しかし私たちにできることはあるはずです。
The lives of the 19 people will never come back. However, there should be things that we can do.
今度の不幸な事件をインクルーシブな社会、分け隔てのない社会を作るための新しいきっかけにすべきです。
And we should make this incident as an opportunity to create an inclusive society where everybody is valued, and the society with any discrimination.
このことを市民社会全体として追求し、また私たち当事者、あるいは障害者団体も全力を挙げていくことを決意して、私のお話をこれで終わります。
Now, we need to seek this value together with each and every citizen in this society, and it is my pledge to continue my all-out efforts in the field of the disabilities. And this concludes my speech. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fujii. Okay, so let's go to Q&A. Preferably, you'd like to start with the working press table. If there's anyone from working press who wants to ask questions, please raise your hand. If you're appointed, come up here and use the microphone and cite your name and the organization. And no speech, please. Any questions? Also, feel free to ask questions in Japanese. 日本語で聞いていただいても結構です。どなたがいますか？
あちらで手を挙げられる。
じゃあ行きましょう。どうぞ。はい。前に来てください。はい。
共同通信の前山と申します。今日はありがとうございました。 利用者の方の現在の暮らし方についてなんですけれども、その現在体育館で生活しているということなんですが、厚生労働省なんかに話を聞くと、要は障害のある方の特性というのがあって、なかなかその場を離れられないんだみたいなことをおっしゃるんですけど、その点はどのように考えていらっしゃいますでしょうか。
はい、強く。はい。I'm from the Kyoto Press. My name is Amayama, and I appreciate your speech for today. And I have a question regarding the way the users of the facility is living. Now, you mentioned that they are living in the gym of the facility. However, when I talk to the officials of the MHLW, they say that according to the characteristics of the people with disabilities, they cannot leave the place where they used to live. And what do you think of this?
お答えしていいですか。
お願いします。
おっしゃる通り、個人個人の例で言いますとね、そういう方いると思います。しかし私は先ほど言ったように普通の感覚から見て、あるいは山揺れを巡るですね、この間のあそこがもともとはかなり山に近い部分にあった、あるいは死んでも使命を伏せている等々考えますとね、いろんなものを合わせますと、厚労省の言い分について私は簡単には了解できない、そこはやっぱり90人がですね、かなり状況は違いますんで、もう少し個別対応があってもいいし、全員があるいは90人も残っていること自体は極めて不自然であるというのが私の基本的な見解で、個別についてはもう少し確かに検討する余地があるかも分かりませんけども、基本はあまりにも一般の感覚とはずれてるってことをね、あるいはさまざまな他の要因と合わせると問題がなくはないんじゃないかなっていうのは私の感想です。
Yes, there might be people who may want to stay in the same place, as mentioned. However, as I stated in my speech, when we look at this situation from ordinary feelings, the Yamayuri-en facility is close to the mountainous areas, and also there the victims' names are still concealed, not disclosed even after death. So when I consider these matters, I cannot fully understand what the MHW is saying. And of course, each individual of the 90 people living in the gym may be dealt with differently because they might have different situations. However, the fact that still 90 people, all of them are still living in the same facility, may be unnatural to me. And of course, the investigation and the consideration of each individual case has to be made. But to me, it is rather odd that they are still in this condition.
Okay, anyone else?
今日どうもありがとうございました。ニューヨークタイムズの上野と申します。先ほど申し上げました犠牲者の方の氏名が伏せられているという点についてもう少しお伺いしたいと思います。警察からですね、ご家族、遺族の方の意向によって発表をしないということがですね、報道等にも、話が出ているそうなんですけれども、これは警察によって取りまとめて、発表しないというふうに決められるという方針が、正しいものかどうか、またはもしかするとご遺族の中の、代表の方から近々な理由で発表したくないという旨をですね、マスコミに対して発表されるのであればある程度理解ができると思うのですが、遺族の方たちのお気持ち、隠したいまたは公表されたくないというお気持ちについて、どのようにお考えでしょうか。お聞かせください。
Now, thank you very much for this opportunity. And my name is Umeno from New York Times. Now, I have a follow-up question on the fact that the victims' names are disclosed. And according to the reports that the police says because of the intention of the family members of the victims, their names are not disclosed. So this means that the police department gathers the voices of the family members and established the policy not to disclose the victims' names. Is this the right thing to do? Or if the representatives of the family members of the victims decided that the victims' names should not be disclosed to the mass media, if this is the decision reached by the family members of the victims, that might be understandable. But what do you think of the fact that the family members of the victims want to hide the victims' names or do not want the victims' names to be disclosed?
はい、私はこういう問題を考えていくの一つの視座としてね、観点としまして、本来はどうなのか、障害を持ってなかったらどうなのか、普通の感覚でどうなのか、まずこれを考えたいと思うんです。で、そうしますと、さっきも言いましたように、おそらくこういった事件の場合はですね、名前を出すのがやはり普通ではないか。で、さらに言うならば、20歳を超えている人間ですね、本来は成人ということであれば、一旦は親とはこれは分けて考える。やはり障害を持っているがゆえに、ずっと親の下で親の考え方通り、これ自体も本当はどうなのか、確かに障害は重いかも分からないけど、しかし20歳を超えた成人として、それは一人前の市民として尊重されるべきではないか。私はそういう点でいうと、一般論ではありますけれども、19人全員が伏せるっていうのはあまりにも本来の姿から、一般論からは不自然ではないかなと思うんです。直感的には死んでまで続く、死後まで続く差別、こんなことを感じてます。で、その上でおそらく個人個人の事情もありますんで、またそれは考えてもいいと思うんですけども、基本的にどうかということで、私はそういうふうな見解を述べたわけです。
When we consider this kind of an incident, I try to view it from the standpoint of how this would have been dealt with. How will this be considered under the normal circumstances if this happened to a person without disabilities? What is the ordinary feelings? That's the way I try to look at the problem. And as I stated, I think it is common to disclose the victims' names when this kind of incident occurs. And also, once a person is beyond 20 years of age, they are grown-ups. And usually they are considered different, or they're considered independent of their parents. And of course, they have the disabilities, and therefore they are living under their parents, and they may have to follow the ideas of their parents due to the severe disabilities. However, once they reach 20 years of age, they are full-fledged citizen, and their intent should be respected. And I think that is the way the ordinary people think. And also, I think it is unnatural to hide, conceal all the 19 people whose lives were taken away from the standpoint of the ordinary thinking. And I also felt intuitively that they continue to be discriminated even after death. And of course, the situations may be different from one individual to another, and we need to take that into account. But I really wonder if this way of treatment is appropriate.
どうぞ。
Hi, my name is Walter. I'm with the Straits Times in Singapore. My question. Thank you so much for your speech earlier. And in your speech, you mentioned about what Japan needs to do in terms of reacting to this catastrophe, in terms of, say, moving from facility to community, from medicine-oriented to life-oriented. My question now is, how can Japan get there? Thank you.
シンガポールから参りました、ボーツです。で、スピーチどうもありがとうございました。で、先ほど日本の社会はこの事件に対処してどのようにこれから進んでいくべきかということでしたけれども、この医療主体から社会へ、市民社会へというふうなことをおっしゃっておりましたけれども、それをどのようにして日本の社会というのは実現していくべきでしょうか。
おそらく理念上はもう確立をしていると思います。つまり医療から、生活中心へ。で、問題は最終的には、この国の財政面の支援がどれくらい重視されるか。簡単に言いますと、日本の社会は大きな借金が抱えていますけれども、一つ言いたいことは、この国の国家予算に占める障害者関係政策費の分配率、これを OECD の中間並みにしてほしい。これによって一定の財源は出てくるはずです。現在は、統計にもよりますけれども、34カ国中、27、8位ということでありますので、こういったことのお金を手当てをしていきながら、準備をしていきながら、理念を具現化していく、こういうことで、あとはお金をつけるかどうか、それを後押しをする世論ができるかどうかだと思います。
I think in theory that concept has been actualized from medicine-oriented to life-oriented. But ultimately, the question is whether or not the financial support can be provided to actualize it. So actually, the Japanese society bears a huge amount of a debt. And one thing I would like to say is that the proportion of a budget that is allocated for the disabilities in this country out of the total budget is not appropriate. And at least it should be the level of the middle level of the OECD. And when we consider that, then I think the certain financial budget will become clear. And at present, Japan is ranked in the 27th or 28th place at this moment out of 34 countries. And so we need to prepare the financial support, and then I think we'll be able to find a way to actualize the theory that was mentioned. And so whether or not this budget, whether or not if there is an actual budget given to the disabilities, also dependent upon whether the public opinions would support this idea.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, please. ありがとうございます。朝日新聞のやつと言います。一つ教えてください。事件の背後に不寛容社会があるというご指摘がありました。
もう少しそこを具体的に教えていただけますでしょうか。特に皆さんに対して、この事件ほどではないにしろ、その不寛容な態度というのが向けられることがお感じになられているのか、それがシビアになっているような現状があるのかどうか、その辺を教えていただけますか。
My name is Kai Yatsu from Asahi Shimbun newspapers, and I have a question regarding your statement. You said that there is the intolerance society behind this incident, and what do you exactly mean by that? Do you mean that intolerant attitude and behaviors are actually occurring to the disabled, not just limited to this incident, but in general in this society? Have you seen intolerant attitude towards the disabled, or is it getting worse?
この国では今年から障害者差別解消法が誕生して、差別をなくしていく、随分期待が大きいわけです。現状はどうかと申しますと、例えばグループホームを作っていこう、今多くの地域で反対運動が起こるのが常態化しています。また先進国の中では普通教育と特別支援教育のセパレートが最も強い国の一つでもあります。さらに言うならば、例えば精神病院に入院している社会的入院と言われる方たちは、厚労省の発表だけで7万人。これは大変な人権問題。同じく入所施設が異常に多いのもこの国の特徴です。おそらくそれは目に見える差別と、また差別の反対は、私は平等という正解、正しい答えだけじゃなくて、差別の反対は無関心、こういうことを合わせますと、この不寛容っていうのは目に見えるものと、あるいは無関心ということを含みますと、実に根深いものがあるのではないか。そういう点では今挙げた例以外にもありますけれども、私の見解では非常に目に見えやすい差別と見えにくい差別偏見がないまぜになって社会の中には多くあるんじゃないかな、当事者としてはそういう感じを持っています。
Now, in this country, the law to eliminate the discrimination against the disabled passed this year, and so there is a great expectation towards the elimination of prejudice and discrimination against the disabled. However, currently many group homes have been established, but there is a resistance movement in many communities. And among the industrialized countries, there is no other country which has a clear distinction or separation between the ordinary education and education for the people with the special support. And also now there is the special type of hospitalization in psychiatric hospitals, which is called social hospitalization. And according to the MHLW, there are about 70,000 people who are hospitalized under the name of the social hospitalization. And I think this is the human rights issue. And the number of care facilities is abnormally high in this country as well compared to other countries, and this is another characteristics of this society. And also there are discriminations that can be seen, but also there are unseen discriminations. And I think the opposite of the discrimination is an equality. However, another opposite word of discrimination is an indifference, no interest. And I think this indifference is seen in this. It's actually seen as intolerance, and I think this is deeply rooted in the problem. And there could be other examples, but I think there are discriminations and prejudice that are hard to spot, hard to see. But these inconspicuous discrimination may be mixed with conspicuous discrimination in this society. That's the way I feel.
Okay, we're going to wrap up, but どうしても聞きたい。Okay, go ahead. じゃあどうぞ最後に一つ。
インターネットニュースサイトのザ・ページの宗宮と申します。先ほどの質問と関連すると思うんですけれども、そういった社会の、見えない差別とか無関心がそういった事件の背景にあるということだったんですけれども、そういったものを、取り除いていくには何が必要かと考えられるかということと、あと医療から地域というのは海外なんかでは成功している事例があるというふうに聞くんですけれども、そういった意味で何が日本と違うのかといった点についてお聞きできればと思います。
And my name is Sokyo from the internet site, and I have a related question. Now, you stated that there is the background factor behind this incident, that is the indifference and discrimination that are not conspicuous. Then what should we do in order to tackle with this issue? And second question is, there is a mention of medicine oriented to life oriented or community. But there are success cases in overseas countries. Then what is different between Japan and other countries where such a policy is being successful?
これはとても難しい、より本質的には、あるいはよりこの深くは、それは教育の力に増すところが大きいと思うんです。でしかしことは人権問題で、先ほど言ったように精神病院の社会的入院だとか、あるいは知的障害者の社会的入所、つまり不本意な入所入院ですね。でこういったことはこれは放っておけない。先ほど私が言いましたように、住民の反対もある、偏見もあるんだけども、心が先か政策が先か。私が欧米で勉強した範囲で言うと、とことん政策が先にあって、それによって人の心も変わっていく。この国では残念ながらお金の使われ方も含めて、あるいは本当に地域で暮らしていくための条件、つまり質と量の拡充を見てもなかなか進展が鈍いということ。やはり私はこの暮らしていくための条件を、あるいはそれを支えていく支援者の労働条件を、これを一旦政策誘導をすべき。それはまさにヒューマン公共事業として力を入れるべきであろう。それから日本がなぜ難しいかってこと、これもいろんな複合要因があります。例えばアメリカの脱施設化、精神病院をこれを地域に返していく。ヨーロッパなどでも精神病院や知的障害者の施設から地域にどんどん移行しました。で一つはアメリカの場合なんかは病院がパブリックであったわけで、多くが日本の場合にお分かりのように、現状の精神病院は 90%、ベッド数で 90%、病院数で 80% ちょっとがプライベート、民間なわけですね。一旦国は旗を振って民間病院の協力を得ておいて、今さら転換できにくいということも内々にはあろうかと思います。こういう点では簡単にはいかないんだけども、やはりこれはみんなが力を合わせてやっていくことでありますし、私は国のイニシアティブが問われているし、そして先ほど言ったお金の配分、お金の分配率を考えていきながら牽引するってことではないか、最後にこうした問題を政治の表舞台で議論をする、こんなことを強調したいと思います。
Well, when we look at this issue, I think it is a very difficult issue, and also we need to consider it from the essential viewpoint, and we need to have a deep thought into it. And I think ultimately this has to do with the power of education. However, it is also related to the human rights issue. Now, the people with the mental illnesses are forced to be hospitalized in psychiatric hospital under the name of social hospitalization, and also people with disabilities are forced to stay at care facilities, although they are not necessarily willing to do that. And we cannot just leave this situation as is. There is resistance on the part of the citizens to accept these people, and so should we consider the heart first or the policies first? When we look at the Western countries, and I actually went overseas countries to learn more about the situation of the disabilities, then they take the policies first, and then the people's minds adapted to those policies. And in this country, the way the money is spent needs to be looked at, and also the way they live in the society. And I think the expansion or the progress of making an improvement qualitatively and quantitatively is very slow in this country. And also we have to look at the conditions for the workers who support the disabled, and we have to prioritize this matter, and this is the human public work, and we have to consider their working condition as well, and also why is it so difficult in this country to make a change. I think there are compounding factors in this country. For example, in the United States, they try to deinstitutionalize the people with the mental illness, and they are shifted from the mental hospitals to the community. And in the European countries, the people with the intellectual disabilities are also transferred to the community. And in the United States, there are many hospitals that are public, but in Japan, there are many private hospitals at the present. About 90% of the beds possessed by the psychiatric hospitals, and also the 80% of the hospitals beds are actually run by the private owners. And so the government try to get support from these private institutions, and therefore I think it's difficult for them to make a sudden change, and so that things are not easy, and therefore we need to join our hands together to tackle this issue. And I think whether or not the country can take the initiative in making a change in this country, it's being questioned, and we have to take the lead, and the government has to take the leadership role, but at the same time we need to consider the allocation of the money, and finally, I think this kind of issue should be discussed openly and publicly on the center stage of the politics. That's something that I would like to emphasize.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to have to wrap up this the press conference. But if any of you want to ask questions, you're dying to ask a question, Mr. Fujii has agreed to stay around a little while, so you can just come up here and ask him question in person. And also, as a customary, I'd like to present Mr. Fujii a one-year guest membership. Mr. Fujii 先生、これ1年間のゲストメンバーシップなので、ぜひこちらでまたやらせてください。
これですか？
はい。これがうちのゲストメンバーシップ入ってますので、はい。
わかりました。
はい、以上です。
はい、どうもサンキュー。
Okay.